I don't know about me. It's good to see you.
All right, we're going to get going here. I appreciate everybody coming. Happy Halloween. As you know, in 6 days, the voters are going to be going to the polls. And not only are they going to be voting for those folks whom they want representing them in Washington and Concord next year, but they're going to be voting on a series of constitutional questions as well. And one of those questions, as you all know, is question number 1, that would ban an income tax in our state constitution. Now, over the course of this election cycle, there have been candidates who have said one thing about the income tax, but who have indicated they're voting exactly opposite of what they're saying. And 3 such candidates happen to be Andy Custer, Carol Shea Porter, and Maggie Hassan. And all 3 of these candidates, well, 2 of them at least, have said they oppose an income tax, but have said that they are voting against banning it in the state constitution. And Carol Shea Porter has been largely silent on this particular issue. So with me today to talk more about this, about their opponents' positions on this particular subject, are 3 candidates who both oppose an income tax and also support the ban on the income tax in the Constitution. And so I'd first like to call up to talk about this the candidate in the 2nd Congressional District, and that is Congressman Charlie Bass. Congressman.
Thank you, Kevin. Somebody should have told me about the dress code.
You're in campaign mode.
Yeah, we're working. We've got 6 days to go. No point in the coat and tie business, you guys. We've got to win an election, and we got to win an issue. And that issue is the first question on the ballot. This is an issue that should have been brought before the people of this state 25 years ago. We would have saved ourselves a lot of trouble. The fact is that New Hampshire needs to end the specter of having a broad-based income tax once and for all, and we need to do it on the ballot this year. This is the opportunity for New Hampshire citizens to preserve and protect the uniqueness of this state, our economic advantage, and to get this issue off the table once and for all. And as Kevin Smith, who's so ably heading up this effort now, pointed out, there are candidates running on the other side of the ticket who are for income taxes one day, in my case for 30 years, and then again, and then an election year conversion for 21 days or 30 days, and I suspect in another 6 or 7 days back to supporting the income tax. This income tax specter is a threat not only to the economy but the uniqueness of our state. And I'm here to support this effort. I will be the first person, if I'm the first person voting in Peterborough, to vote yes on question 1 on this ballot. It's good for New Hampshire, and it's good for all of us. So thank you, Kevin.
Great. Thank you, Congressman. And now I'd like to ask to the podium the congressman from the 1st Congressional District. And by the way, Congressman Bass, Congressman Guinta did contact me and ask me what I was wearing. I'm sorry. But please welcome to the podium Congressman Frank Guinta.
Thank you, Kevin, very much for organizing this event today. I want to echo Charlie Bass's sentiments. He has a very clear, succinct position on this, as do I, as does Obed. We oppose an income tax in the state of New Hampshire, and we support a constitutional ban on the income tax for the very same reasons that Charlie Bass identified. We are a unique state. We have a unique economic climate. We want to make sure that we protect the possibility, or ensure that there's no possibility of an additional broad-based tax in the state of New Hampshire. It has been very clear by the candidates on the Republican side of the aisle who are running that oppose an income tax that we feel we can be more effective, efficient with taxpayer dollars, continue to make sure that the size of government is not larger than that of what the people in New Hampshire want. And the other candidates on the other side of the aisle have had positions all over the map over the years. In the case, in my situation, my opponent has gone very silent on this particular issue. While she has supported candidates for high office that support the income tax, she has not been willing to stake a position publicly in this election cycle. So I think it makes very good sense for the media to ask my opponent, where does she stand, not just on the income tax, but where does she stand on the constitutional amendment? It's a two-part question. It's very, very simple. We support having a constitutional amendment to banning an income tax. The income tax would be bad for the state of New Hampshire. It would be bad for our local economy. We continue to be competitive and moving forward in New England and northern New England because of our tax structure. We want to continue to improve on that. And making sure that the income tax is gone once and for all would do great for our citizenry, would do great for our economy, and is something that I think has been well established. The people of New Hampshire want to ensure that there is no income tax. I thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I would just encourage you to ask the candidates once and for all on the other side, not only where they stand on the income tax, but where they stand on this constitutional ballot question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Guinta. And finally, I'd ask to come to the podium the Republican gubernatorial candidate, Obed Lamonte.
I want to thank Kevin Smith in a special way. He and I spent a little time on a traveling road show early this year. And Kevin is a very gifted and talented statesman, and I'm grateful to him and his willingness to take this initiative up. Central to the New Hampshire advantage is the fact that New Hampshire has consistently avoided enacting a broad-based sales or income tax. Governor Chris Christie, who's now fully occupied with really the tragedy and the disaster in New Jersey, did spend some time here a few weeks ago and made it very clear about how ill-advised it is for New Hampshire and other states to go the way of an income tax, particularly as an antidote to high property taxes. And he gave compelling testimony, which once again reminded us why the New Hampshire advantage is critical and why it's based on the anti-broad-based sales or income tax position. Question 1 enshrines in our Constitution the commitment that the voters have made time and time again, rejecting those that would call for a broad-based tax, particularly an income tax. And what it does is it stabilizes and makes clear for future generations, particularly for those businesses and individuals coming to New Hampshire, to expand business and to look at our economic platform, to know that an income tax is not a threat. It's part of our New Hampshire advantage that I will certainly want to champion and promote as the governor of the state of New Hampshire. And being able to point to a constitutional amendment where the people have said, at least for future generations, until someone else has a better idea, that this is going to be the law of New Hampshire. No broad-based income tax, period. There is risk here in this election for governor that the people of New Hampshire understand. The risk is to elect a governor who, on one hand, has promoted an income tax when she first ran for state senate in 2002, who now says she's opposed to an income tax and has taken the pledge, but yet has never told the people of New Hampshire what her experience or conversion experience is to take a broad-based tax pledge. And yet she refuses to take a position in favor of this constitutional amendment, which calls into question her commitment, her true commitment to the, again, central theme of the New Hampshire Advantage: no broad-based income tax for New Hampshire, period. And what the voters of New Hampshire should particularly take note of is that Senator Hassan, when she was the majority leader, not only presented the people of New Hampshire through the state a failed budget in 2009, but one that contained an income tax on small business called the LLC tax. Her commitment on the pledge is questionable and is not dependable. And I would only make a historical observation that in 1996, Jean Shaheen at that time ran on a broad-based tax pledge. And yet her third term out to run for election, she renounced the pledge and supported a sales tax. Again, I think it's critical that in these times, when we're looking for certainty and predictability, that those candidates who truly believe in an anti-broad-based tax pledge take the position to support the income tax amendment, question 1. And those who do not, a serious question has been called to their commitment to that position, central to the New Hampshire Advantage. And so I would join all New Hampshire citizens to vote yes, encourage them to vote yes on question 1, and join Congressman Bass, Congressman Guinta, and so many other of our leaders, both in the House and the Senate, to again put us on the path of prosperity by making it part of our Constitution, an anti-income tax position. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ovid and Charlie and Frank, for your remarks. Are there any questions for any of the candidates from the media on this particular issue?
Can I ask a question about something that is not about this question?
What's it pertaining to?
Representative Guinta, general question. You don't come my way. I'm with Patch, so if I can just ask you a quick question. I've already talked to Ovid and Charlie about this. So what can you do, generalizing, not specifically about your race, but generalizing campaigns and elections in general? What can you do as a leader to improve the tenor and the tone of our elections these days? A lot of people are being, just the negativity, we see it every 2 years. We always say this is the worst time. But I got to tell you from personal experience, a lot of my friends on Facebook and everywhere are going, can't wait for this to be over. And a lot of it has to do with all the campaigns, all the organizations just running these ads and bombarding people with negativity. So generalizing,
Sure.
what can you do in general to improve it as a leader for our state?
Well, I think it's important for us to be talking about policy and substance. And those candidates who focus on policy and substance, I think end up and tend to be rewarded by the electorate. I started my campaign months ago. My particular TV advertising started on August 21st. Positive TV advertising. That happened all the way through until my opponent started actually attacking me in the first BIA debate from question 1 of that debate, where the actual moderator, Laura Kanoy, had to ask my opponent to stop the negative attacks and focus just on substantive issues. The following day, my opponent went up on TV with her first ad, a negative attack. And the interesting thing in my campaign is that what we have done in previous years, and we did in this year, is we offered the opportunity to the campaign, my opponent, to take that negative ad down before we decided to respond. And I feel strongly that you cannot allow someone, a campaign or another entity, to distort your record. And I think you have an obligation as a candidate to respond to a distortion of your record. In that case, it was a veterans ad, where she claimed that she stated in the first half of her ad that she supported veterans. And then in the second part of the ad, she said, based on HR 2055, that I cut tens of billions of dollars from veterans. It was proven false by, I think, Nashua Telegraph PolitiFact. It was then subsequently at a WBIN debate where I asked my opponent point blank if she would have voted for the bill that she was citing. A bill that was passed 411 to 5 by the House of Representatives. Not one Democrat voted against the bill. Was signed and passed by the Senate, signed into law by the President of the United States. An example of bipartisanship, something that I think the country is desperately seeking. And in that debate, my opponent admitted that she would have voted for the very bill that she was attacking me on, claiming I voted against it when I voted for it. The ad subsequently came down. 2 additional ads that my opponent and her team have put up have been negative. They have both been by non-partisan PolitiFact organizations, again, one by the Telegraph and one out of Florida, been proven to be completely false. The latest one is by, I think, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, where it says, I actually voted to reduce or increase taxes for the middle class and cut taxes for high-income earners. The fundamental problem with that is there was never a vote in the House of Representatives, never even a vote in committee. So that was identified as absolutely false. It was based on a study done by a Democrat organization that said there were potentials to occur with the economy if certain things happen. And the National Telegraph PolitiFact, again, called it essentially a falsehood. So candidates have to be responsible for their own advertising. I think, as you mentioned, the electorate is very frustrated with negative campaigning, but more so, they are frustrated with distortions and lies about candidates. And I think people in New Hampshire and around the country want to hear facts, substance, and policy, and make decisions based on facts, substance, and policy. And I will continue as a member of Congress and as a candidate to focus on those substantive issues. And as a leader, what I can demonstrate is that I will not go on the attack on in these ads, but I do reserve the right to respond should a negative or false attack be thrown at me. And I feel that that's a reasonable position to take, particularly when you give your opponent an opportunity to take down those ads and they continue with their attacks.
Great. Any questions on question 1?
Just for either Representative Guinta or Representative Bass, why do you think it's so important that your opponents weigh in on this issue, being that they are national legislators and this is a local issue?
If my opponent has any record on any issue other than the clients she represented when she lobbied for Rath, Young, and Pignatelli, it is the income tax. She supported a candidate who ran against Senator Jean Shaheen in the primary for governor. The sole issue was an income tax. She helped fund a PAC that directed money into the candidacies of candidates that were for an income tax. She certainly didn't have very kind words to say about former Governor Meldrum Thompson, who was one of the fathers of the income tax. And the list goes on. If there is any issue that she is known for, it's being a supporter of taxes. And what is the first thing that she would do were she elected to Congress? Raise income taxes on individuals making more than $200,000 a year, including the 40,000 LLCs and sub-S corporations in this state where the profits of the small business go through to the owners. So I think it's quite relevant because for some reasons of her own, she changed her position 180 degrees about a month ago and then said that she's against it because the economy is too weak in New Hampshire, but for it at the federal level, where arguably the economy is weaker than it is in New Hampshire. And all of it is nonsense. The fact is that she's an advocate of a broad-based tax in New Hampshire. She always has been, and I suspect she always will be. And I don't for the life of me understand why she doesn't want to run on that issue, because it's the only issue she's known for outside of her professional career here in Concord.
I think it's important for national office seekers to talk about the particular issues that are directly important and relevant to voters in New Hampshire. And I think it would give insight as to how they would vote on behalf of their constituents in Washington, D.C. You know, we have a responsibility to represent to the best of our ability and be a reflection of our districts. I think serving with Charlie Bass for 2 years, he does a phenomenal job in representing a good reflection of his district. I think I do the same. And when candidates are running for office, again, on policy and substance, it's very fair to talk about what their philosophies are and how they would vote and how they would govern. And in this circumstance, I think it's very clear that at least with Ann Custer and Maggie Hassan, that they both absolutely support 100% an income tax in the state of New Hampshire. My opponent has been silent on the issue. However, she has supported rather vehemently pro-income tax candidates for governor and for high office in the state of New Hampshire. I think people have a right to know those particular issues and where we all stand, again, on those substantive policy issues that are so important to people in the state of New Hampshire.
My friend from Manchester brought to my attention the fact that I characterized former Governor Melvin Thompson as an advocate for an income tax. I meant to say as the leader of the movement that began the no tax pledge in the state.
All right, well, I know at least Frank and I have young trick-or-treaters at home that are going to get all the time to take them out. So thank you all very much again for coming this afternoon.
Congressman, would you support an abortion ban in New Hampshire? Congressman Guinta? Given that you think that national candidates